according to a speech a few days before the start of the invasion. Russian President Vladimir Putin assured that modern Ukraine is an invention of the Soviets, and even labeled Lenin as the architect of the country. On this channel, we have talked a lot about the history of Russia, which is undeniably quite linked with that of Ukraine. So in this video, we will focus on analyzing the assertions of the Russian leader. Did Ukraine really exist before the era Soviet? Are you interested? Alright, then stay until the end of the video. I'm curious what led me to establish this channel, turning my hobby into my daily job, and how Rayos, a naval sailor, started sharing history on social media. Watch my TEDx talk. The link will be in the description and first comment. To begin, we must talk about the kinship between Russians and Ukrainians, and for that it is necessary to mention the Slavs, which were discussed in more detail in this video. The Slavic peoples are those who speak the homonymous languages, and due to the linguistic affiliation that gives us a scope about their origin, they can be divided into three large groups: the Western Slavs, the Southern Slavs, and the Eastern Slavs. The ones that concern us are the latter, of which there are four today: Russians, Belarusians, Ukrainians, Rusins. The first organized state based on the Eastern Slavs is the Kievan Rus, which was discussed in this video. This was a confederation of Eastern Slavic tribes founded by the Varangians, or Swedish Vikings. From its name, we can draw a strong connection between Russia and Ukraine. Rus would be the prefix that forms the name of the country of the Tsars, and Kiev was the first capital of this great state. That is, both Russians and Ukrainians, Belarusians and Rusins share the same origin, and during the era of Russes they were the same people. The turning point were the Mongol invasions of the 13th century, which meant the final blow to the declining Russes of Kiev. Since then, Russes split into several states that fell under the vassalage of the Mongol Empire, and only one was able to maintain its independence in the long run, the Republic of Novgorod. After the decline of the Mongol Empire, one of the principalities, Vladimir Suzdal, yes, namesake of the current president, was gradually gaining autonomy and eventually became the Principality of Moscow, as its name indicates, centered in the current Russian capital. This state conquers Novgorod and promotes the immigration of Eastern Slavs to the north, a region free from Mongol rule. In 1547, Muscovy evolves into the Russian Tsardom, and from here begins its great expansion towards Siberia, becoming from that time on the great power of Eastern Europe. As for the rest of the Eastern Slavs, in the face of the decline of the Mongols, they were progressively assimilated by a Baltic power, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, which entered into a dynastic union with Poland. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth is then formed in 1569. This new state, in which the Poles were the hegemonic ethnicity, collectively referred to the Eastern Slavs, who lived in its territory as Ruthenians. Over time, these Ruthenians also obtained a differentiation within the Polish domain. White Ruthenians, present-day Belarusians in their contemporary territory; Red Ruthenians, the Rusins, Eastern Slavs who lived in present-day Slovakia, and where they are still a minority today, and the modern Ruthenians or Ukrainians. As you can imagine, two major powers like Poland and Lithuania and Russia would not be immune to constant disputes, both for the hegemony of Eastern Europe and for the dominance of the Ruthenians, who had a sense of belonging with the Russians, the Eastern Slavs, and did have their own state. After 2 centuries, Poland enters into decline and is finally completely assimilated during the well-known partitions of Poland. In them, its entire territory was divided among Prussia, Austria, and Russia. The third of them would absorb, for obvious reasons, the vast majority of the territories inhabited by Ruthenians. As for the Habsburg Empire, it would create an entity known as the Kingdom of Galicia and Lodomeria, where the Rusins and part of the Ukrainians would be included. It is important to highlight that after so many centuries of separation, it is completely natural that the Russians and the divisions of the Ruthenians have created diverse identities based on cultural and linguistic differences that have led to the consideration today that they speak similar but diverse languages among themselves. This is reflected in the creation of the Cossack Hetmanate. This was a state founded by Ukrainian Cossacks. As you may know, this was a warrior lineage associated with present-day Russians and Ukrainians who settled in various parts of the Caucasus and in southern Ukraine. This group would have founded this aforementioned country that Ukrainians consider as their first organized state, although truth be told, it never had full sovereignty. Rather, it was founded during the rebellion of Bogdan Khmelnytsky. He was a Ukrainian Cossack leader who fought against Polish dominance in favor of a union with Russia, with whom he had a greater sense of belonging. Thus, the Cossack Germanate is formed as a protectorate of Russia with these borders, and even serves as support for its fight against Poland and for the conquest of Siberia. In 1764, the Cossack Hetmanate is officially assimilated by the Russian Empire, and since then, almost all Eastern Slavs are officially within Russian territory. This is when we have to fast forward to World War I. As you may know, this coincides with the decline of the Russian Empire, which, despite joining the victorious Triple Entente, is forced to withdraw in 1917 after being defeated by Germany. This was the precursor to the start of the Russian Civil War, probably one of the most convoluted conflicts in history. While there were two main sides, the Bolsheviks, or radical communists, led by Lenin, and the White Movement that grouped several counter-revolutionary groups, there were a huge number of separatist factions that took advantage of Russia's tremendous internal instability to seek their autonomy and/or independence. The ones that concern us were the Ukrainian movements. The first of these was the Ukrainian People's Republic, founded in 1917, which claimed all this territory and was led by Simon Petlura. This country would support the also emerging Second Polish Republic during the Polish-Soviet War, in which Bolshevik Russia tried to assimilate both separatist territories. It turns out that the Soviets were successful in the eastern part, and in the remainder of the territory, the Western Ukraine Republic was founded, which, to avoid possible incursions by the Soviets, ended up annexing to the Second Polish Republic. The Second Hetmanate was another Ukrainian state led by the Cossack Pavel Skoropadsky, which had the support of the Central Powers and claimed all that territory. The country only lasted between April and December of 1918, that is, with the defeat of the Central Powers, to then be reabsorbed by the Ukrainian People's Republic. Finally, we have Makhnovia, in which the revolutionary Nestor Makhno founded an anarcho-communist territory of Ukrainian essence located in the eastern part of present-day Ukraine, but which was ultimately assimilated by the Bolsheviks. We have then reached the point to which President Putin refers. According to him, the country did not exist until before the creation of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, a constituent republic of the Soviet Union, founded by the initiative of Vladimir Lenin. To tell the truth, the first borders of that entity were based on the territories that the Bolsheviks were able to annex from the extinct Ukrainian People's Republic, and from the free territory of Nestor Makhno. As mentioned, Western Ukraine was annexed by Poland, and did not integrate along with other territories ceded by Czechoslovakia and Romania to the Ukrainian SSR until World War II. Finally, the territory of Crimea, annexed by Russia in 2014, was transferred from the Russian SSR to the Ukrainian SSR on the initiative of Nikita Khrushchev in 1954. And it is here that we only have the borders that current Ukraine claims, based on the principle of uti possidetis juris. So in conclusion, yes, there were multiple Ukrainian states before the Ukrainian SSR, but of disputed sovereignty and recognition, starting with the Cossack Hetmanate, which had limited autonomy, and the various states founded during the Russian Civil War, which were very ephemeral and lacked full international recognition. So here, we could say that technically the statement is subject to various interpretations. But what is undeniable is that within the Ukrainian people, ancient modern Ruthenians who separated from the Russians several centuries ago, an identity was created separate from the Russian one, which is reflected in the constant but failed attempts to create their own state before the foundation of the Ukrainian SSR. So now it's time to read your opinions. Do you think Ukraine is a Lenin invention, as President Putin said, as one of his justifications for the invasion? Don't forget to leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. Also, I leave in the description my social networks, and in case you want to see the new videos in pre-release and have a greater interaction with me, your donations on Patreon, unamanito.net, or channel members are welcome. Until next time. Thank you.